In this video, we are going to show the 10 rarest comic books of the Golden Age, according to CGC and CBCS databases. Stay tuned for the video. Hey YouTube, it's Matt here. Today we're going to talk about the 10 rarest comic books, which is what I told you in the introduction. But these books, there might be more rare books out there, but when you use a combination of value and rarity, these are the top 10. Now, some of these books are super well known. Some of them I've never heard of, to be honest with you. So I hope you enjoy this video. Number 10 on our list of the 10 rarest comic books from the Golden Age is a great book if you are a Batman fan. This is Detective Comics number 38. Now this book was published by DC in 1940. This happens to be the first appearance of Robin, who we all know is a wonderful character in the Batman universe. This also has the origin story of Robin, where Dick Grayson was orphaned and was taken in by Bruce Wayne, aka Batman, to be trained as part of the dynamic duo in order to lead a life of fighting crime. Now, there are 131 copies of this book graded in CGC, and there's an additional 15 in CBCS. A high-grade copy of this book has gone for well over $100,000. There are some low-grade options out there that are between $4,000 and $5,000. So number 10 on our list is Detective Comics number 38. Number 9 on our top 10 list of rarest comic books of the Golden Age is AllStar Comics number 3. Now this is a very key issue in the fact that it is the first issue that had a superhero team. This was the first appearance of the JSA, or the Justice Society of America. There are a lot of characters in the JSA in the first issue here in AllStar Comics number 3, but three of the biggies are Flash, Hawkman, and Spectre. Now, this was printed by DC Comics in 1940. There are 106 copies on the CGC census and an additional 9 on the CBCS. This book has gone for well over $200,000. The number 8 book on our list is one of the most famous comic books ever. This happens to be the first appearance of Superman in Action Comics number 1, which was printed by DC Comics in 1938. This is the first appearance of the Man of Steel, which started off the superhero genre and the golden age of comic books. And again, back in 1938. There have been copies of this book that have been sold for well over $3 million. There are 72 copies in CGC database, in their census. Database, census, same thing. And there are an additional 4 in the census of CBCS. Number 8 on our list, Action Comics number 1. Number 7 on our list is another book like number 8. It is a giant key. It is the first appearance of Batman. This is Tech number 27, or Detective Comics number 27. First appearance of Batman, and this was printed in 1939 by DC Comics. This book has a number of 69 in the CGC registry and an additional 7 in CBCS. Now, this book has sold for well over $2 million in a high-grade copy. Number 7, Tech 27. Number 6 on our list is Marvel Comics number 1. This was printed in 1939 by Timely Comic Books. You may have never heard of Timely, but you have heard of Marvel Comics. Now, Timely is what we now know as Marvel. They've had a few name changes over the years. They originally were Timely Comics, and then they were Atlas Comics, and now they are Marvel Comics. So the first issue in Marvel was printed by Timely. And again, it's Marvel Comics number 1. It's the first appearance of the Human Torch. This is a different Human Torch than what we know of as a member of the Fantastic Four. There are 63 copies in the CGC database and an additional 6 in CBCS census. This book has gone for well over $200,000. Again, number 6 on our list, Marvel Comics, number 1. Well, we're halfway there. With number 5 is All American Comics number 16. This comic featured the first appearance of Alan Scott, who we now know as Green Lantern. This was printed by DC Comics in 1940, and there are 58 copies in CGC census and 6 additional copies in CBCS. Now, if you're looking for a low-grade copy, they can be found in the $3,000 to $4,000 range, but if you want a high-grade copy of this book, you're going to be paying $200,000 plus. So, number 5 on our list is All American Comics number 16. Number 4 on our list is Whiz Comics number 2, which was printed by DC in 1940. Now, this issue contains the first appearance of Captain Marvel, who later goes on to become Shazam. Now, there are 54 copies in the CGC database and 0 in CBCS. Now, this book has sold for almost $300,000. So, number 4 on the list, Whiz Comics number 2. Now, we're getting into rare territory. Number 3 on the 10 rarest comic books of the Golden Age happens to be Adventure Comics number 40. Now, what makes this comic special, other than the fact that it is rare, this happens to be the first appearance of the Sandman. No, not the Sandman that you're thinking about, who is one of the rogue gallery of foes for Spider-Man. This is a different comic book, or different comic book version of the Sandman, printed by DC Comics. This came out in 1939 by DC Comics. There are 36 copies of this book in the CGC census and 6 in the CBCS census. So, number 3 on our list is Adventure Comics number 40. Number 2 on this list is Detective Comics number 1, which is a historic book for a lot of reasons, but story, honestly, is not one of them. DC Comics, the D and the C, it stands for Detective Comics, which was the first comic book printed by DC Comics. So, the name of the company came directly from the comic books. And we know that Batman had his first appearance in Detective Comics, but not until issue 27. So, Detective Comics number 1 is number 2 most rare. There are 34 copies on the CGC census, 0 in the CGC. So, number 2 on our list of the top 10 Golden Age books is Detective Comics number 1. Now, we are in very rarefied air. If you own this book, you are one of only 9 people in the world. The number 1 most rare comic book of the Golden Age is New Adventures number 26. This book is not really known for the story for a character. In fact, the main character in the main story is Captain Jim of the Texas Rangers. It was a cowboy and a cowboy western book, if you will. This book was printed in 1938 by DC Comics. And again, I told you, if you own this, you're one of 9 people. There are 9 copies of this on the CGC database, and there are 0 in CBCS. If you like this video on the 10 rarest comic books, please hit the thumbs up button. If you want, hit that subscribe button. And if you need to put a comment, please put it down below. And this is Matt, and I want to thank you for watching. Have a great day.